Hello and welcome to the Ultimate Freight Podcast. This is Joe Gianosa with Ultimate Logistics. We are a brokerage that's been around for over 20 years now, and we started this podcast to be able to give you what's going on in the freight world and the freight market. It's been absolutely nuts this last year due to COVID, and there's all kinds of scenarios that I like to walk through with my customers and prospective customers. So I don't know if you've seen it or not. You probably have. If you have a social media account, there's been tons of memes about it and news articles. The Ever Given is a huge cargo ship. It's actually, it can actually hold 20,000 20-foot containers. All right. And there's over 18,000 containers on it currently right now. It weighs 220,000 tons and it's larger than the Empire State Building. So it actually, it's been stuck in the Suez Canal for 5+ days, almost 6 days. And it got dug out yesterday, our time, but technically it was Monday morning in Egypt. In the Suez Canal. Those of you that are familiar with the Suez Canal, that was constructed in, I think, the mid 1800s, because for trade from Asia to Europe or other Western parts of the world, they'd have to go down underneath Africa and go back up. And it would take them like an extra 3 weeks to do that. So they built the Suez Canal so trade could go from Asia all the way over to Western Europe, and they just go right up there and deliver, and it saves them a ton of money and a ton of time. But we had this huge cargo ship getting stuck due to winds. I don't know what the captain was doing or whatnot, or if they'll find any empty alcohol bottles in the ship or not. Who knows? But they said it was due to wind. Then the ship got turned sideways like this, the tide went down, and the ship is so massive, it got sunk into the sand and just sat there. And so there was all kinds of concerns globally because of this. And there's actually a domino effect that happens because of this. And I'll go over that. But luckily, on Sunday, we got a full moon. And because of that full moon, it rose the tides at the peak amount that the tide could go. Then there was a fleet of tugboats. There was 13 tugboats on Sunday tugging this thing one way. And then there was dredge companies out there. And there was one dredge company that has a specialized suction dredger. And it can extract like 2,000 cubic meters of sand per hour. And so that was digging at the same time, and they finally got it out. So, and they needed to do that quickly as the world economy was taking an estimated hit of $400 million per hour that this thing was stuck. And the Suez Canal, by the way, supports around 12% of the world's container shipping capacity. And this blockage held up as much as $10 billion worth of goods a day that it was actually stuck. So the shortage, by the way, of shipping containers to move goods around the world that really has persisted over the last year is likely to get worse. All right, here's why. First of all, there's thousands of containers that have been stranded in these ships, not just the one that was stuck, but the ships that are waiting to go through the canal. There's a lot more containers on ships that were actually rerouted. So some of them got all the way through the canal and sat there and saw what was going on. And these larger companies decided to reroute their ships, turn them around, go all the way back down, and actually go the southern route like it's pre-1869 and go underneath Africa to get up to where they needed to go. Crazy. It's crazy. So all of these containers won't be arriving in ports when originally expected. And you can see how the domino effect would last. So we know that ports are already strained from COVID related issues and a huge spike in pent up demand because things are opening back up again. And these ports may become even more congested as the canal reopens. So, and by the way, another thing is there's a ton of traffic flow through the Suez Canal. It's just like anything else. If there's a blockage on the freeway, well, that's gonna cause a ton of traffic and bottlenecking, and that's what's happening in the Suez Canal. So they finally got that sucker free, but now you have all these big lines of ships, and so when they all go through, they're all going to be bumper to bumper over to their ports, and it's going to cause even more congestion. So a lot of these guys that are trying to make up for lost time, they're already behind schedule. A lot of them are skipping docking in smaller ports and heading right over to the bigger ones to try and make up for that lost time. And by the way, the majority of, how does this affect the United States? The majority of cargo that's shipped to the US that goes to the West Coast from Asia is goes to the West Coast from Asia. They're going the other way around the globe. But if the traffic from the Suez to the East Coast is rerouted, then the Western ports are going to get backed up. There's all kinds of traffic jams going on and ships making reroutes. So who knows what's going to happen to these, the port of Oakland possibly, or the port of Long Beach. It'll just further congest ports and cause traffic jams to them who are already experiencing those backlogs. So, and by the way, something else people are experiencing and my own customers are experiencing are container shortages. You can't find a container right now. Well, there's already tons of container delays, adding to the shortage of containers needing to be shipped out of Asia. The reason why is because there's a trade imbalance between Asia and Europe. Europe takes a lot of imports from Asia, but Europe isn't giving anything back to Asia. So when a container ships to Europe, they're usually shipping them back empty. And then these containers in Asia are getting shipped all around the world. That's what's going to affect West Coast shipping and shipping in North America and the United States the most are the containers needed to ship out of Asia and China. So basically all these containers are getting held up and they're not getting that supply of empty containers anymore. In Asia, that's going to be a backlog of containers needed. So it could possibly increase prices is what people are saying. So anyway, that's what's going on in the shipping world with the ocean liners. And you've seen that Ever Given, the huge ship getting stuck. It definitely has domino effects. Thank God it doesn't last another week or two and they finally have it out, or else I think they consider like blowing it up and then just picking up the pieces. There were livestock on all kinds of different ships. I think 20 different ships that were backed up waiting had livestock on them. And the country of Egypt actually did like emergency food drops to these guys. And it's insane, but everyone came together. There's different videos of the tugboat companies all celebrating, finally getting it out of there, but it might have a little bit of an effect on shipping around the world, and definitely lost some money there. Anyways, weather, not to be even more doom and gloom, but there was a surge of deadly tornadoes in the Southeast this last week in the United States. And by the way, some of the debris, I think there was like 20 to 30 tornadoes in like 24-hour period in the Southeast. It was nuts. Some of the tornadoes were so powerful that the debris getting sucked up through the tornadoes were being recorded by Doppler weather radar at 20,000 feet in the air. And that's what you cruise at when you're flying on a commercial flight. It's 20,000 feet up in the air. So pretty aggressive tornadoes and wind, and the wind is not stopping. This week, we're seeing a surge of wind and high gusts from 40 to 70 miles an hour. It's all right in the middle of the country. So as far west as the northern Rockies and Idaho, Montana and Wyoming, and as far east as Illinois, and as far south as Lubbock, Texas. It's literally, you just take the middle of the country and go like this, and that's where you're seeing all these high winds mainly. Now, the scary thing about that is it's dry weather conditions right now. So when you mix, as us Californians over here know, if you mix dry weather conditions and really high winds, that's a recipe for some pretty nasty fires. So there hasn't been any reported yet. Just giving you guys a heads up, there could be some fires right smack dab in the middle of the country, and that could affect some shipping lanes for sure, depending on where they're at. So winds also Monday and tomorrow are whipping around the Northeast, including Interstate 95 corridor. That's that main shipping line up and down New York City, including including the Interstate 95, and gusts will be as high as 40 to 60 miles an hour in New York City, Maine, as well as the interior sections of the region, like I just talked about. So Wednesday, by the way, something else to look out for with a freight forecast as far as rates go. Whenever you have the end of the month, and especially the end of a quarter, like we're seeing, shippers are very aggressive to get their stuff shipped out. So Wednesday, the 31st, is the last day of the quarter. And so shippers and brokers should expect carrier spot rates to continue to climb this week as capacity tightens. Why would capacity tighten? Other than what else, everything else that's going on with the sudden influx of products being shipped, is shippers are pushing to get their shipments picked up before April 1st to get them off the books. So if you're a shipper, you're trying to ship stuff this week, just know you have extra competition all around the country this week because it's the end of the quarter. So something else to look out for. Some regions around the United States, I mentioned last week that all around the country we're experiencing 50% rejection rates. That's contracted rates that companies have. 50% of them nationwide are getting kicked back to the customer right now because of how competitive shipping is. So Atlanta, by the way, increased that rate, and they actually increased their overall volumes of shipping by 5% week over week. So from last week to now this week, we're seeing a 5% increase in volume of shipments getting sent out of the Atlanta and Gainesville, Georgia area. And shippers in Little Rock, Rock Island, Illinois, Milwaukee, Twin Falls, Idaho, Tulsa, Oklahoma, those markets are experiencing 70% kickback volume. Basically 70% of the contracted rates are getting kicked back to the customer, meaning the carriers are not honoring those rates. They're going towards the spot market quotes where they're getting sometimes double what the contracted rates are. Then you got Joplin, Missouri, Savannah, Georgia, Omaha, Nebraska, Kansas City. Those markets are experiencing over 60% rejection rates. And also Southern California, week over week, that volume of shipping has increased by 11%. And especially because there's still 20 ships that are backed up waiting in Long Beach to get unloaded. So you can see a lot of backlog there. A lot of these ships and containers have dry freight on them and consumer goods. Well, a lot of these people, what they'll do in the shippers, they'll put that freight on a train, on rail, once it gets here to the West Coast and ship it out. But because of all the delays, they're actually pulling trucks off of the market. And that's causing even less trucks to be there to do regular loads that they normally do. Even most of my customers ship refrigerated freight. Even the refrigerated trucks are affected because they can just shut that reefer off and haul dry freight. And it's crazy. There's definitely a shortage of dry vans. Actually, in some parts of the country, dry vans are more expensive right now than reefer vans. It's kind of nuts. But usually the dry vans can hold a little bit more weight. So it's just absolutely nuts right now. But for those of you shipping out of Southern California, like I said, week over week, over this past week, the shipping volume has increased by 11%. signaling that the demand for capacity is increasing, and it's likely putting upward pressure on those rates. Hopefully, though, those of you that are shipping out of Northern California, where we're at, down to LA, right now it's definitely more expensive to come out of Northern California and come down. Usually in a normal year, you'll see all the produce, which is going to happen here. The produce is picking up in Northern California and in the Valley. When that happens, you see the prices go up coming north to south and go down going south to north. With what's going on with the demand and all these shipping containers and everything and the ports being backed up, you'll probably see a nice balance. But definitely, I don't know if you'll see the north to south get more expensive than south to north like you usually do over the summertime. So we will see. We'll find out. I just wanted to give you a quick update. That is your shipping update for the week. And again, this is the Ultimate Freight Podcast. And if you wanted to hit us up online, it's ultimatelegisticsinc.com. We'd be happy to give you a quote and work with you and really just guide you through this crazy freight market. That's where brokers earn their money, is educating their customers. And that's what we're here to do. See you next week, guys. Thanks.